Hi there, so this next little video is especially for my mum, who has a knee injury at the moment. Knees are extremely complicated and also mysterious. We take a look at them and they're literally a hinge joint with a little bit of rotational movement, but above that is another sort of hinge with more rotational movement in the hip and below us in the ankles. So often we can find ways to relieve the knee by focusing on the knee, but actually if we take a look at the whole body as one system, which it is, and find sense of space, relief, release elsewhere in the body, often that can help take any weight or pressure, pull or tension off what's going on with that knee, especially if there has been any degeneration in the bones or in the kneecap in particular, any scarred tissue under there, of which I'm no stranger to as well. So I also have something called patellofemoral syndrome, which means that just underneath the kneecap, the cartilage is quite scarred, missing, and so the head of my femur, my thigh bone, and the patella have a little knock-knock moment quite a lot. So it doesn't necessarily feel like bone on bone, but I feel more tension. And the way to relieve that is really to take care of what's above and what's below. So making sure that my calves are nice and relaxed and released. I'm taking care of my ankles and particularly my feet. And that actually I have quite a lot of hip range and mobility, as I suspect that the limited hip range or the per use of my hip range as a dancer and mobility and care of that caused the knee injury. So it wasn't anything I was actually doing particularly with my knees, it was the technique and the usage of my hips over several years that has caused maybe the knee injury for me. It's by the by, but knees are tricky and mysterious. So we're going to use a few different things, just because I know that my mum has them and we've worked on these. So these are trigger point fascial balls. They've got a bit of squeeze to them and they've got a spike to them as well. And you can get these on places like the Physical Lab is a pretty good place. You do want something with a bit of give, so it's not the really hard ones that some people have. I also have a soft over ball. We were using a pillow over the holidays when I was home, so not a very big one, but something that can have a little bit of push and pull to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lie on our back with these spiky balls in underneath our pelvis. They're going into the top of the glutes, so your piriformis, your glute med area. It's a bit of muscle, it can often feel a bit tender. Lie down first, stand into the hips. Take the spiky balls, place them in underneath you and release your pelvis down on me. So if I just show you a little moment. My lower back is off the floor, my ribs can soften and they're right underneath the pelvis, into either side of the top of the buttocks, into that glute area. Allow your pelvis to drop down here and relax. Take a little moment to let your body absorb the balls and vice versa so they understand where they are in time and space. And then we're just going to take your pelvic tilt, your 12 and 6, so your belly button drawing back towards the spine and your pubic bone dropping away from you. This is not a thrust or a squeeze, it's not very tight or fast. All that's happening is it's a gentle rock, a nod of the pelvis, belly button to pubic bone, or if you talk about your pelvic clock, 12 to 6. What we want to do is find a sense of ease and relief in the lower back, that the pelvis and the sitting bones can sit nice and easy, and that you've got space and relief in the hip joints and the pelvis. So we can take a few of these in our own time. And we can also go a little bit right and left. So you're almost pressing down into the ball on either side. And now the rock is going side to side through the hips. You might feel that one thigh bone can drop down into the socket while the other one reaches away and vice versa. So the knees might have a little walk as well. And then if you wanted to, you could try to trace all the way around this big clock face. Some people like to imagine the pelvis as a bowl and you're letting the water slosh up around the rim of the bowl all the way around in both directions. Again, this is to release the lower back, to release the glutes, the tops of the buttocks as well, and to allow the hip joint, that ball and socket joint, to find lots of ease and range. Great. Bringing your feet back into a parallel position, allowing your pelvis to find its neutral for today, where 12 and 6 and 3 and 9 can feel quite level. That'll change every day anyway. Stand down into the left foot and allow the right leg to float up to 90-90, a tabletop position where the thigh bone can drop down into the socket, stuff we've done before. Feel free to externally and internally rotate the thigh bone here, so it's like you're waving your foot across the room. And then bring that right foot back down. As the right foot finds the floor, as you step into the right foot, can you allow the left leg to float up to 90-90? Same thing, you don't have to flex too much in the foot, but you're externally and internally rotating the thigh bone in the socket. And then come back down. We're going to take a few repetitions of our 90-90 legs. That sensation that the ribs can be soft, the breastbone is melting back, the pelvis is level, and it's quiet. So it's not perfectly still, but it's not rocking and rolling. You're not having to hold your breath to pull your legs up. This leg can float up with ease into 90-90 and back down. The knee and the foot aren't moving in relation to each other. It's like there's a big pin in the hip. That's it. You might have a clicky one, like my right hip, if you can hear it, and that's okay. You can play around with letting the leg come a little bit more across your body and your central plumb line. Maybe it misses out that click. We look for balance and equilibrium. We may not necessarily have it all the time. As we move and work the body, finding release, efficiency, it'll figure it out. Nice. Bring your feet down onto the floor, allow your ribs to be heavy. Feel free to take a little scrub of your hips side to side so the balls will wriggle underneath you. They might even escape. So much so you can lay your pelvis down now and just take a little moment here, because we're trying to find ease and range in the rest of the body. We're going to glue the legs together as if they're one leg. Allow your arms to drop out to the side and just allow the knees to drop to the left. Keep the feet stacked on top of each other if you can, and the shoulders down and heavy. Breathe into those right ribs. And exhale, soften, send the right ribs down into the mat. The rest of your spine will follow your mid, your lower back. Then comes your waistband and your pelvis and your heavy, heavy legs. Exhale, soften. You can let them drop now to the right. Keep the feet stacked, the knees reaching over each other. Feel free to take a look in the opposite direction if you want to. Breathing now into the left side of the body, the left ribs, the left lung. Exhale, soften, send that left side back down into the floor. And you curl back up to center. You can do as many of those as you like. We're then going to let the feet open into parallel. Our focus here is on our pelvis and our spine, helping our body find range and ease. The feet may want to come a little bit closer. As you stand down into the feet, feel that tilt of the pelvis as the belly button draws back towards the spine. And you can peel your body up off the mat to rest in between the shoulder blades, so you're not going too high. Open up through the front of the hips. So imagine yawning these guys open and reaching your knees over your toes. Inhale. Exhale, soften and lay yourself all the way back down through your spine. Let your sitting bones open and your pelvis will drop through. You may even go a little bit to 6 o'clock. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, stand down into your feet first. Feel that tilt of the pelvis. Send your sitting bones up the backs of the legs. Reach your knees over your toes. Rest in here in between the shoulder blades. Inhale. Exhale, soften and lay yourself all the way back down. So hopefully this feels okay. There's a sensation that the thighs are reaching, the thighs are opening, the hip flexors are yawning open. You're not pressing down into the knees, you're not shoving the thigh bone into the kneecap. So the feet go first, which sends the pelvis to tilt. As you peel your spine up, Your weight is in your feet and it's behind your shoulder blades. And the knees are just doing as they're told, they're just following that line of direction. They're not having to pull or draw on anything. Weight bearing wise, they should feel quite even. If this feels comfortable and as you progress, check in how it feels to squeeze that left buttock, really stand down into the left foot and float the right leg up to tabletop. The reason for this is we want to build a little bit of strength in the glutes and then bringing that right foot back down. You can level yourself up, squeeze and stand into the right foot, maybe a little bit of initiation. You can tap at it if you want to float the left leg up to tabletop. That's it, bring the left leg back down. You want to open here and lay yourself all the way back down. You can do a few of those. They're a good way to start to activate through the back line of the glutes as well. If comfortable, feel free to hug your knees in towards your chest. Doesn't have to come too close, have a little yawn around. If anything's going on in the knees, this is actually for the knees. They've been in quite a bit of flexion, so if they need to stretch out and have a little shake out, keep listening to them. Pause and rewind as you come back through this. Nice. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take a soft ball, a pillow, a wrapped towel, so roll a towel a few times. It's going to come in underneath the knee. So it sits underneath in the crease of the knee. Your heel is going to stay on the floor and the rest of you is going to lie down as well. You can have the other leg bent or long, it's totally fine. All that's going to happen is you're going to keep your heel pressing down, not too much but heavy, your hip heavy as well, and then you're going to press the back of your leg into the ball and release. We're going to repeat this about 15 times on this side. There's a sense of pressing the back of the thigh and the back of the knee into the ball, and what I really want you to enjoy is the release, that sort of bedouing, that the quad, the hamstring, the hip flexor can all sort of relax. So you press down, doesn't have to be 100%, and then release. And again, and release. We're going to do 10 more. Nice easy breath. I'm just going to bend the other leg. My pelvis prefers that. Pressing down, release. Press down, and we want the release. That's what's more important to us. So this doesn't have to be 100%. It could be about 80. But really let the whole leg go afterwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then when you're ready, just move the ball out to the side a little moment. Lay that leg down and then the other. And just notice any differences, usually through the front of the hip. Usually you can get the back of the knee down onto the floor a little bit more. There's a sense of release through that quad. It's a little bit softer than the other one. And even though the knee injury is usually predominantly only on one knee, we're definitely going to do both for the sake of our body. So same thing, just so you can see, it's underneath my other leg. The heel is down, thighs are nice and relaxed. Good, so you're pressing down and release. Press down and release. Nice easy breath, relax the jaw, relax the forehead, the shoulders in the hands. All you have to do is press down and release. And once you have a little circuit of exercises in your mind or even written down, you can have a podcast going on, some nice music, maybe even just some silence, where you really focus and feel how the body's responding to these exercises. You listen into what it needs. Pressing down and release. Down, release, down. Let's do 5 more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Send the ball away from you, lengthen both legs out, check in there how that feels. And then softly curl around onto one side and come up to seated. Hopefully that's comfortable. The other area we want to take a little look at, so you've released through the back of the hamstring a little bit in the back of the leg and the calf. The quad will have got a little bit of relaxation, so will the front of the hip flexor. But if you have these fascial balls, it's quite nice actually to work through the front of the body as well. So you're going to come to lie on your front and you're going to place the spiky balls into the hip flexors. So where the legs crease and fold when you go to sit. So you're going to come to lie on your front and you're going to be placing both of them in underneath you. under each hip flexor, and then lay your forehead down on your hands. You can have some cushions, you can have a little rock side to side. Take a little moment here to try and let your legs relax. So if the knees need padding, because maybe it's actually something going on the kneecap, then you can do that as well. But just check in first if they actually do need that. And just have a little rock side to side. So we've released through the back of the pelvis and the back of the sacrum, and now we're trying to release through the front of the pelvis as well and the hip flexors. In order to give that slack in the quad, the full of the front of the thigh, so that the kneecap can sit easily in a place where it feels more comfortable. So you can have a little rock side to side. You can just chill out on them. And I would spend a few minutes here, so it takes about 2.5 minutes for fascia to release and lengthen. So this is not something you want to be rushing. If anything's going on in your lower back, then please do place a rolled cushion or pillow underneath your abdomen, just so that your lower back can find a little bit more length. Again, you want to support the body as much as possible. Head can be wherever you need it to be. After a little while, we're going to lift our hips up, take the spiky balls out from underneath us and allow the legs to relax here. So we've just been yawning open through the front of the hip flexor. I'm not going to build any exercises today, this is mainly a release. We should maybe do a series for the knees. Says my mum, no way. The next thing we're going to do is lie on your front and place them right into the middle of your thigh. So mid-quad, probably a little bit out to the side. You can do one and then we could do the other, so we don't have to do both. We could just stay with one so we notice the difference. One hip will feel a little bit higher, this thigh will feel a little bit higher. It can be quite tender. Just note that the whole body tenses because this is something different. Can you let it start to relax and melt over the ball? Easing into it here. Our quads get really tight from sitting. And sitting in poor alignment that doesn't support the body very well. So then from here, whichever leg you have it under, I've got it underneath my left, you might have the same. Can you draw the heel towards the sitting bone, allowing the fascia to slide open and apart over the ball, and then allow the toes to reach away. So we're just getting a little bit deeper into the front of the thigh and the quad. Try to breathe through it as much as possible. I know it's a little bit tender. You feel free to wriggle around and move it a little bit. That may necessarily not bring ease. It might bring another area that isn't as comfortable. And you are welcome to adjust and send the ball up a little bit higher. Just noticing how that feels. Or if you wanted a tiny bit lower, but not very close to the knee. So still leave me 1 or 2 inches above the knee. Good. And then you can take that ball out from underneath that thigh and relax the leg back down. Notice how easy and soft that is, how much your hip comes down to the floor, how much you can relax. And then we're going to switch through to the other side. So you're placing it underneath the middle of the quad. So you'll notice this side is now a little bit higher. We're doing them separately. You can also do them together, and you can start to play around, maybe have a little wriggle. You find an area of feedback, not necessarily pain. Drawing the heel up towards the buttock, lengthening the leg away. So the muscle fibers are sliding apart over the spiky ball, and then the muscle fibers are sliding together. It often feels like you're lengthening or stretching the muscle, so the fibers slide apart, or you're shortening or contracting the muscle, sliding together. Breathe into it. Release away any tension, any strain, so that this can give some feedback to your knees, give it lots of space. It's not being pulled in any which way or direction. Great, make this your last 2. Feel free to move it to a slightly different direction and repeat. Feel free to stay in this as long as you want as well. Or to have both in underneath there at the same time. When you're ready, take both balls away, have a little shake out there, and if comfortable, bring your hands back underneath you. 4-point kneeling isn't always comfortable, I know. Feel free to pad the knees if that is better for you. And just take a little cat-cow, pressing the floor away. Inhale, open the sitting bones, send your eye line, your chest, your breast going through. Exhale. Inhale. If comfortable, some of you can bring your big toes together and your knees apart. Even with a knee injury or knee pain or discomfort, you might be able to send your sitting bones back towards your heels into your child's pose. If you feel like actually the knees don't want to go there, I can't find it, it's quite good to roll a pillow or a towel and put it in back behind the crease of the knee and now sit back. This allows just the thigh bone and the tib fib to move away from each other a little bit. And it takes any deep pain or pressure out of the knees. So actually you find you can go a little bit further back. Breathe into the back of you, the sides of you, find that length through the fingertips, through the hips. And then when you're ready, curl all the way up to seated. Take anything away. Bring your feet hip width apart and then bring them wider again. So again, this is now not about the knees. We're just taking a look at the hips. Your arms are going to go back behind you a little bit and you're just going to let the legs windscreen wiper side to side. I don't need you to kind of push or press them down, just see where they want to go. Remember, we're taking a little look at the range above the knee, and on a different day we can focus on the feet below the knee. So how does it feel to find internal and external rotation in the hips? Having a little play around there. And then bring yourself up to seated. Check in how the legs feel. Feel free to stretch them out in front of you. You can still always keep a soft bend. Remember, we're trying to find progressive length and space and range so that the leg finds ease as a whole. And remember, your practice does makes permanent. So whatever it is that you are practicing, that's what you're permanently putting into your body as a habit, as an alignment, as a posture, as a norm. So maybe this is the habit that you're constantly creating in your body and that becomes your norm. So take a little look at maybe doing a few of these exercises every day. Maybe just finding the ball. Maybe it's just this one. Takes a minute each leg, you're lying on the floor, you take a little moment, you're pressing the back of the knee into the ball to have a little bit of release. So the body starts to understand that you are in that process of healing, that you are giving it attention, that you are focusing on it. Maybe if you're lucky enough to have these wonderful trigger point fascial balls, you can have them underneath the pelvis, you can have them in the front of the quads. If you know an exercise where we roll the feet underneath them, even that every day, just a few minutes every day will start to make a general change and difference and benefit to the body. And then every so often, maybe once a week, you come along and do this little video, 20 minutes max. You take away all my blethering at the start and the end. I hope it's been useful. There will be more on knees as my mum's knee progresses and develops and hopefully gets better, and we work through rehab for her, but also my knees as well and what they need, and also any requests from you. So do get in touch at Sona Pilates Instagram or Facebook, or even message me on here. Take care. Bye.